Okay, so let's begin today's session with a few prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. A warm welcome to all of you for today's Knowledge Icosagon series. We have been discussing the 20 items of knowledge described by Lord Krishna in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And today we are going to talk about a very important topic, one of the 20 items of knowledge listed by Lord Krishna, and that is about false ego. All these are described in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna himself. So the 11th item of knowledge described by Lord Krishna is to be free from false ego. So today's topic that we are going to discuss is let go the ego. So we dedicate this presentation to His Divine Grace Abhay Charana Ravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is our beloved spiritual master and our inspiration. And today's session is based on his teachings. So firstly, let us see the definition of false ego. What does false ego mean? Let us see. Ahankara. False ego means ahankara. False ego means accepting this body as oneself. When one understands that he is not his body and is spirit soul, that is real ego. Ego is there. False ego is condemned, but not real ego. Now, ego, the moment we exist, there has to be an ego. Ego means our existence. I am there, I am present. But then, what is condemned in the Bhagavad Gita is the false ego. What is false ego? False ego means, as Srila Prabhupada is saying here, false ego means accepting this body as ourself. So when we think that I am this body, then we are on the false ego platform. And that is condemned. But there is something called real ego as well. What is real ego? When we understand that we are actually not our bodies, but we are pure spirit souls, then we are on the platform of real ego. So there is false ego and there is real ego. So wherever scriptures say that you have to become free from ego, it means we have to give up our false ego and we have to come to the stage of real ego. Let's try to understand more about how to give up false ego, why we should give up false ego, and how to come to the platform of real ego. So that is what we're going to discuss in today's session. Let's move forward. So going forward, what are the consequences or effects of false ego? We all know about Eno. Eno starts working in 6 seconds, they say, as per their claim. But ego, काम बिगाड़े सिर्फ 6 seconds में. So when you have an ego clash with somebody, immediately, काम बिगाड़े. You will see that reaction, you will see that problem arising because of your ego with people around you. In 6 seconds, your relationships can get spoiled. So, काम बिगाड़े सिर्फ 6 seconds में, ego. So let us see the consequences or bad effects first, the negative effects. So What are the effects of false ego? First one, it keeps us in ignorance of our real self. So when we are under the influence of false ego, we are very busy thinking that we are our body, and therefore we are all the designations which come with the body. And all our activities, our talks, our actions, everything is going to revolve around this concept that I am this body, and therefore my duty is to uh, serve my body, to satisfy my body. So what actually happens in the process is we remain ignorant about our real self. We forget what is our actual position. We become very busy defending our temporary designations, and we lose the opportunity of elevating ourselves to the soul platform, which is actually possible only in the human life. So we see in the history, many battles have been fought just to defend people's false ego. One king used to wage a war against the other king, and it would become a matter of their prestige, their pride, and to satisfy their pride and their prestige, they would actually not mind killing hundreds and thousands of millions of people, innocent people. World War I, World War II, all of these things, if you study, you will see that it is because of false ego of few people, narrow-minded people, that there was a large-scale destruction in the world. So people become very busy defending their false ego, and because of this, they don't care to know about their real self. What a great loss after being born as a human being. If one does not actually care about one's real self, it is actually the greatest loss. So the first consequence of or the effect of false ego of identifying ourselves with the body is that we keep ourselves away from the knowledge of our real identity, our real self. Let's go forward. Are there any more consequences of false ego? Yes, there are plenty of them. So the second consequence is it keeps us busy in proving ourselves to the world. Sometimes we get into this business of proving ourselves. I am so great. Huh? These are all happening because of me. I am so capable of doing things. When we say that, it is all indicating a person's false ego. As Krishna himself says in the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, uh, Ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. One who is under the influence of false ego, how do we identify if we are under the influence of false ego? Krishna is giving a very simple test. If you are under the influence of false ego, uh, kartaham iti manyate. We think that I am the doer. It is because of me that the world is running. It is because of me that all these things have happened. So this is the consequence of false ego. So we maintain a social image. See, I'm always a successful person, and we try to defend that social image, maintain that social image about us in the minds of people, and we keep doing this hard work of proving ourselves to the whole world. Look, I'm so great, I'm so capable. And what is the consequence of this? So many a times people lead a very artificial life to defend their false ego. They go to any extent. In fact, people manipulate. People go to the extent of cheating others. Sometimes people even cannot hesitate to kill others to prove that they are correct. They are the best. Now, these are all happening because people are under the infect, under the control of false ego. Okay, let's see the third consequence. First is it keeps you away from your real self. Secondly, it makes you busy with the proving business. Now, thirdly, what is that third consequence? It makes us proud, makes us proud. See, I am so great. When we are under the influence of false ego, as I mentioned, we think it is because of me that all these things have happened. So there is a kind of uh, pride that is developed in us. I am the uh, mover. I am the person who, I am a go-getter, and without me, nothing will happen. So we become victim of pride, darpa. And what happens because of pride? We have discussed this in our earlier session. Pride goes before a fall. So when somebody is proud, you must know for sure that that person is going to meet with a fall down in the very near future. So whatever great positions, whatever great achievements he might have got all this time, it will all go away from him. It will all be taken away. That is the law of nature. If you are proud, then be rest assured that things will go away from your hands very soon. So that is the consequence of false ego. And next one, going forward, there's another effect of false ego. What is that? That is, we get easily affected by others' comments or criticism. Because I was telling we are under the influence of false ego, we maintain a social image. And one negative comment, when somebody passes, we can't stand it. We get easily carried away. Both positive comments and negative comments, we get easily carried away. When people admire us, when they praise us, and we are taking pleasure out of it. Oh, a lot of people are praising me. I'm really a great man. I'm really a great achiever. When we think like that, that means you should know you're under the influence of false ego. We get carried away. And when some negative comments or criticisms are passed around against us, then also we become very much mentally affected. So because we are worried, oh, my social image will get destroyed now. These many days, these many years, I have worked hard and I have maintained a good social image in front of others. Now it is getting destroyed because of the bad comments or criticism of people. Now what should I do? We become very, very disturbed. We can't stand it anymore. We have seen such examples where celebrities or politicians, sometimes celebrities, when they have some negative comments against them, they go to an extent where they can't stand it. They go to the extent of ending their lives, committing suicide. So it means that they are under the influence of false ego. So Srila Prabhupada gives an example. Suppose you're having a brand new car. You have worked very hard and you have somehow purchased that car, and you're very, very possessive about your car. You flaunt your car in front of everyone, and let's say a small scratch happens on your car, then immediately you become so affected, as though you yourself have been hurt, because we are so attached to the car. We start thinking, I am this car. Our identification, will start growing with that car, and any small minor accident happens to the car, we get very much affected. So we have to understand these are the effects of false ego. So now that we understood there are bad consequences of being under the influence of false ego, now let us see what should be done to overcome this false ego. We will see some case studies now. Let's go forward. Some case studies of both from the scriptures. These case studies tell us about both the negative side and the positive side. The examples of how we should not be affected by false ego, that is a negative side. And the examples of how people were able to overcome the effect of false ego and become free from all these consequences that we discussed just now, that is a positive side. So first we will see the negative side. We have the first case study about King Indra. Indra, the king of heaven. It so happened that Indra was once given a prasadam garland by his spiritual master Brihaspati. And Indra was riding on his Airavata elephant majestically at that time. So it was his duty to actually come down, get down from the elephant and bow down in front of his spiritual master Brihaspati and receive that prasadam garland from his spiritual master in a very respectful manner. But because Indra was so proud, he was thinking, I am the king of all the demigods. I am Devendra. So that is false ego. You see, he was identifying himself with his position, which is after all temporary. You see, so he was fully affected by that false ego. He didn't come down and show respect to his spiritual master. He simply took that prasadam garland and gave it to his elephant, Airavata. And that animal elephant, it's after all an animal. It does not know how to respect prasadam, how to respect spiritual paraphernalia. It just threw it away. It just played with it for some time and threw the garland away. Now, because of this kind of an offense against his spiritual master, Indra actually lost his position. He lost his position. He lost his position as the king of heaven. And he was actually attacked by one demon called Vritrasura, who was very, very powerful. So Vritrasura conquered heavenly planets, and Indra was shelterless. So this Srimad Bhagavatam describes in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is told that Indra, because of his false ego, ahankara, he lost his position. He misbehaved. He behaved offensively towards his spiritual master and he lost his position. He even lost his Vajrayudha, his famous weapon, Vajrayudha. He lost it. So he became completely powerless. So from this incident, we understand if you become falsely puffed up, then what happens? Krishna has given you all wealth or all knowledge or big position. In a few moments, Krishna can take everything back. You should know this. This is what happened with Indra, and it's a big lesson for all of us. Not to offend a great personality. What to speak of one's spiritual master. A devotee should not offend anybody. He should not get into this false ego. Right. Okay, let us see another case study. Another interesting case study of a negative side where a person actually got affected by this false ego. This is a well-known personality, that is Hiranyakashipu. Now we all know Hiranyakashipu was a great demon, and after he got the benedictions from Lord Brahma, he thought that he had become immortal, and because of this, he became very proud, and he considered himself to be the greatest, so much so that he considered himself to be God. And then he forced everybody in all the 14 planetary systems to worship him as the Supreme Personality. He was so proud of his position. He was considering that he is the Supreme Master, the Supreme Controller. There is nobody big above him. And he had brought the whole world under his control. And finally what happened? His false ego was crushed when Lord Narasimhadeva appeared and he killed Hiranyakashipu, much to his bewilderment. Hiranyakashipu was thinking that nobody can kill him. He is immortal. But no, you cannot cheat God. You cannot think that you have become supreme. It is not a fact. Facts don't, false, fabricated facts do not last forever. So that is what we saw in Hiranyakashipu's life. So King Indra and Hiranyakashipu both suffered, both saw the negative consequences because they were under the influence of false ego. Now let us see some positive case studies where there were great personalities. In spite of their position, their possessions, they were not affected by false ego. The first example I would like to quote is that of Maharaj Prataparudra. Maharaj Prataparudra was the emperor of the Gajapati dynasty, Gajapati king. He was the king of Orissa during the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Jagannath Puri, after he accepted sannyas at the age of 24, upon the request of his mother and other devotees, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed in Jagannath Puri for the rest of his life after accepting sannyas. There, once Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw during the Ratha Yatra of Lord Jagannath, this Emperor Prataparudra was personally sweeping the area in front of the Ratha. You see, he is a very, very opulent king. He is Maharaja. But still, because he considered himself as a servant of Lord Jagannath, Krishna is Jagannatha. He is the master of the entire Jagat, the entire universe. And I'm after all a small king managing one small piece of land on this planet Earth. So I am his servant. This is what Prataparudra thought. So Prataparudra Maharaj never let false ego affect him. He was in fact acting on the platform of real ego. What is real ego? Real ego means I am actually servant of God. This is real ego. I may be a great emperor. There may be so many kings under me, but still I am not the ultimate controller. So this is sanity. This is real ego. So we see Prataparudra Maharaj displaying the quality of real ego. And later on, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appreciated this Prataparudra Maharaj. He accepted him as a devotee. Now, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself says is another case study for us. Let's move forward. What Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says about our real ego. So, when somebody asks Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu, who are you? What is your identity? So this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied. It's a great lesson for all of us. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Naham vipro nacha narapatihi, napi vaishyo na shudraha, naham varni nacha grihapatir, na vanastho yatirva, kintu prodyan nikhila paramananda purnamritabder Gopi Bhartu Pada Kamalayor Dasa Dasa Dasanu Dasa. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I am not a Brahmana, I am not a Kshatriya, I am not a Vaishya or a Shudra. These are all material designations. These are all false ego platforms on which people operate in this world. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, I am not all of these things. Nor am I a brahmachari, a householder, a vanaprastha, or a sannyasi. So these designations, even though they are part of the Vedic spiritual culture, but nevertheless these designations are still material only. It is pertaining to your material situation or your bodily situation. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is negating. He's saying, no, I'm not all of these. I might have accepted sannyas, but I'm not a sannyasi. That's not my original position. That's not my original identity. It is just a circumstantial identity. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I identify myself only as the servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis. He is like an ocean of nectar, and he is the cause of universal transcendental bliss. He is always existing with brilliance. This is the reply Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave when he was asked, "Who are you?" Gopi Bhartru Pada Kamalayor Dasa Dasa Dasanu Dasa. I am the servant of the servant of the servant of Lord Krishna, who is the maintainer of the Gopi. This is my original position. This is my original identity. So, this is the real ego platform which we must aspire to elevate ourselves to. On this platform of identifying ourselves as the servant of Krishna, there are no negative consequences. There is no question of false pride. There is no question of trying to prove yourself to anybody. There is no question of feeling bad when somebody comments or criticizes you because you are totally on the spiritual platform. You don't work for the pleasure of people of this world, and nor are you disturbed when people of this world criticize you. Because on this platform of being a servant of the Supreme Lord, which is our original position, we only worship Krishna, we only work for the pleasure of Krishna, and there is only bliss on that platform. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching us, why do you have to struggle maintaining so many social images? Because of the influence of false ego. Come to this blissful platform of being a servant of Krishna, and then you will experience real happiness, real knowledge. Real knowledge. Real knowledge cannot be realized on the false ego platform. Real knowledge can be realized only on the real ego platform. So that is the classic example or the conversation with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where he revealed what is everybody's original position. Right? We are all servants of Krishna, and we should aspire to come to that stage, engage in service of Krishna. Let's move forward. So, how to get free from false ego? So, here are some interesting practical tips which will help us to become free from false ego. Number one, engage in menial services. It keeps us grounded. Example is Maharaj Prataparudra. Even though he was the emperor, he did not mind sweeping the area in front of the Ratha. So we have to engage in menial services to Krishna. Menial services means something which generally people of this world do not aspire to do. Right? Oh, I have got an opportunity to clean the temple, to clean the Goshala in the temple. Oh, it's a wonderful opportunity. It's a self-purification opportunity. So these kind of menial services will keep us grounded. Right? So service, definitely, service will purify us from false ego. Now the second thing that we can do is practicing this letting go. Practice let go. What is this let go? Okay, if somebody criticizes me or somebody talks ill about me, that's okay. Let me forgive them, forget it. Because they are after all commenting about my body, about my material circumstances. Okay, somebody may be hefty and somebody may criticize, oh, here is a tall or here is a fat man, but he is after all talking about the body only. But in the first place, we are not the body. So why should we worry about the comments about the body which we are actually not? So we have to practice this letting go. Let go. Don't take too much into heart people's comments. That is one important thing we should keep in mind. Third thing that we can do is ascribe your success to the Lord. Ascribe your success to the Lord. whenever you get a success, immediately we should uh, we should thank the Lord, and we should say, "Oh my dear Lord, it is because of you, your inspiration. It's because you have given me intelligence that I have achieved this success. It is because you have empowered me to do something. That is why I have achieved success." Never let success enter into your head. Always be careful to transfer all credits to Krishna. So in this way, we stay grounded. We don't get falsely proud. And lastly, one more interesting thing that we can do is to develop the real ego, that I am servant of Krishna, right? We have to develop the real ego. How do we develop real ego? By association with those who are also trying to develop real ego. The association with devotees of Krishna will help us to quickly come to this platform of real ego. When we render service to Krishna in the association of devotees, then it is very easy for us to come to this platform that I am servant of Krishna. That means if there is any service opportunity, immediately grab it, because Krishna consciousness or spirituality is not simply discussing philosophy or discussing theory. No, it is practical. So practical means we have to engage ourselves in service of Krishna. And that too, when we engage in the association of seriously practicing devotees, it becomes very easy for us to develop our real ego, that I am servant of Krishna. So by practicing these four things, we can actually get free from the influence of false ego, and we can come to the blissful position of the real ego, right? So let go the ego. This is how we can let go our ego, by giving up the false ego and coming to the platform of real ego. So with this, we come to the conclusion of today's session. Now, is there anything that anyone wants to question or to make some comments? You can unmute yourself and speak out if you have any questions or comments.
Hello, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. May I know who is this?
Hello, Prabhu. My name is Kavya.
Yes, Kavya, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Are you
Hare
audible?
Krishna. Yes, yes.
Yes, okay. Yes, so this session on today, based on ego, I have so many questions regarding to this basic aspect. One,
Okay.
let me ask you one particular way. So when you said to just let go a person when he comments on you, it could be a bad comment or criticizing comment or an evil comment. We can just let it go for some time. We can think maybe his situation or his or her situation, whether the person, the third person or second person is 40 years old or 30 years old, or it could be 35 years old. We can let go that person based on his age factor, and also based on his sort of thinking. So we can let that person go for some time. Okay, maybe his present situation is not that easy to talk to him or her, so we can
Kavya, sorry to interrupt you. Uh,
uh,
can you quickly come to the question, because we have just few minutes to wind up the session. Quickly come to your
okay.
question.
Okay. So when we have to let go that particular situation, I have let go that particular situation couple of times, but I can't overcome that because I can't every time make that person his or her situation to inform that what has happened or not. But it is always a criticizing comment over me. So how can you
Okay,
overcome that?
okay, okay. Understood your question. Thank you for asking this question. See, I didn't mention that you should try to explain to that person why his comment or criticism is invalid. No, we don't have to get into that business. Maybe we can also do that later on. But what I discussed right now in today's session is uh, the person is criticizing you for your material position. Means
Okay.
maybe he's criticizing you for your bodily features, or he may be criticizing you for some work that you have done, whatever. Okay. Now,
Hmm.
we understand that all these are on the material platform. But what we
Okay.
discussed today, that is on the false ego platform. So it is natural on the false ego platform, we definitely get irritated when somebody is criticizing us because we are still attached to those material designations and our material positions. But what
Hmm.
Bhagavad Gita is urging us to do is, Bhagavad Gita is saying, please transcend from the uh, false ego platform and elevate yourself to the real ego platform, to the soul platform.
Hmm.
Now, from the soul platform, if you try to evaluate the comments or criticisms of the other people, you will see that these comments or criticisms are too insignificant to worry about.
Hmm.
So, we will talk more about it. Please stay in touch with us. You can probably contact Santosh. Um, Offline, we will talk about this, Kavya. I think we are running short of time. We have to end this
Sure,
40
sure,
minutes.
sure. Okay.
So,
Thank
let
you.
us all chant. Thank you. Let us all chant the Hare Krishna mantra 3 times together. And thank you all for being part of today's session. And let us chant now. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Nandi, Shri
Radharani
Advaita
Gaura
Shri
Bhakta
Bhakta